Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I am Josh, that is Vince, that is Jason, and that is our guest tonight, Jennifer Wallens. This is Conversations on the Fringe, live with you every Friday night. I'm in a different time zone, so when I think about this, I'm like, but it should be 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is where we bring you everything that's like conspiracy that goes bump in the night. We talk about those things that are just outside of that normal range of the mind, things that we have to kind of go outside of the mind. We got a good friend in the chat right now, and he's being very optimistic tonight, so this is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jennifer here. And so Jennifer has been a trusted and evidential certified psychic medium, pet psychic, an animal communicator, spiritual artist, paranormal investigator, which I can't wait to talk to her about, psychic detective, which I saw this whole thing with Ukraine. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Lecturer, author, radio and TV personality, and metaphysical teacher, which is one of my favorites. She currently serves as the vice president for psychic research and paranormal studies and the chief examiner for the American Federation for Certified Psychics and Mediums. Jennifer, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on.
I'm pretty excited too. Yeah, we're kind of like already had like a 15-minute show prior to all this. We
I know,
talking,
right?
like, just having a great time talking about some things. We live in very, very interesting times. We do many different shows on this platform. We talk about many different things in the sense of information. There's one thing for certain that I'm seeing, and this is this conscious evolution, this conscious awakening of humanity, kind of like a veil being lifted for a lot of people in the world, whether it's the corruption within politics, the medical industries, or whatever it might be, whether it's the environmental issues that are plaguing our planet, and I know you have a degree in environmental science and biology, and we can talk about that as well, but there's definitely an awakening happening, and this awakening that I've seen has definitely increased a lot of people's, I guess, psychic abilities in life, or at least their connectedness back to source, nature, God, whatever it might be. How did you get involved with being a psychic? How did you know you were a psychic? What was that like moment you're like, maybe I'm different?
Well, I guess I didn't really understand that I was different till I was probably in my 11, 12, something like that. And I would say things, see things, and then I would kind of get hushed, like, oh, don't talk about that. And then as soon as I would read, I was an avid reader. I was a very quiet, shy, sensitive little kid. I'd be happy if you just put me in the corner with a book. I was so happy. Or up in a tree, right? That would be my favorite place. But I would just start having all these precognitive dreams. I would know things when I met people. I wouldn't want to be around certain people, like at school or just with friends. I just avoided that kind of situation just naturally. Didn't like loud noises, loud music. I just kind of was sensitive. So as soon as I started realizing that, I started reading books. Ruth Montgomery, Edgar Casey, some of the oldies but goodies, right? Yeah. And then all about past lives and all kinds of different things. So everything I could get my hands on when I was a teenager, I was reading. Made me feel a lot better. Like I wasn't so weird. There were other weird people, so I wasn't alone. Made me feel great.
Now, that's interesting. I want to touch on something here because I had a very similar kind of coming into age. Now, the one thing about this, and I want a lot of people out there, because we have a very diversified audience, from Christian on to people who kind of look at things in a different light, maybe the metaphysical, the new age, and so forth. And I know this is hard to understand for some people, but this isn't something we asked for. This isn't something you said, hey, I got this gift. Look at it, I can do this, right? This was a curse when it first came about because you were different, and it wasn't a cool different. It was like, what is happening to me? What is going on with me? I got two little children. I got an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I noticed when they started having these sensations that they acted confused. And it's not necessarily normal. It's just not normal in our culture. And we don't know how to deal with it in culture. So I want everybody out there to understand I'm sorry, guys, that I'm echoing from far away. I apologize. I'm in a hotel room and I'm like in this little corner. But I want everybody to understand is that, many people don't want to be like this. This isn't something that we just strive to try to be. It's who they are. It's who we are. And, you have to embrace the gifts that God gives you. And sometimes God gives us different gifts that separate us from other people, and maybe we see things differently. Now, I know you were just kind of talking about that. I just wanted to reiterate that because I'm looking at some of the comments. But so take me through your evolution, because you don't just have like, oh, I'm talking to dead people. You're talking to dead animals. You're doing psychic detective work. You're actually working with police departments.
Yeah. It just kind of one thing like led to the other. Well, like when I was a teenager, just reading everything. And then we moved to Orlando. And near Orlando is a little town called Casadega. And there's a spiritualist camp inside there, which was for the spiritualists back in the day, that was their winter place to go. There's a Casadega, New York, up near Buffalo, where there's another great spiritualist camp. Spiritualism is the religion that includes mediums and talks about that's a normal thing, and healing and communicating with those on the other side to prove that there is an afterlife. Anyway, so I would go to Casadega and I started going to classes with some of these fabulous mediums there and started learning more and more and more. So my evolution kind of grew from there. And then I was in college and, raising 3 kids. And I was, like you said, I was an environmental scientist. So I worked in wetlands and did a lot of normal things. Didn't have a whole lot of time for spiritual things, but I did make time to go to a workshop here and there or a class whenever I could. And then it just grew. Things, when you're supposed to work with the spirit world, they don't just leave you alone. They will continually remind you, this is what you agreed to do when you came in. And this is why you have this particular gift, because you're to go out there and help people. So it's like, you'll just turn around and like, everybody's always telling you their problems. You're always helping people. And then someone from spirit will come in and, I'll say like, I believe your mom named Anne is here and she's showing me, a white poodle. Is this, and sure enough, the person starts crying and that's their mom. And so it's like those things happened over and over and over again. And I would have dreams and things would happen. So the more that happened, the more I was able to move towards a point where I could do it full time. My kids are grown. Now I even have some little grandkids, which I'm seeing the same kind of things with them, as little as they are. It's so fun because they know things. I'll tell you a really crazy thing. My first grandson, came to me in a dream before he was born. I saw exactly what he was going to look like. He told me his name. He wanted to be called George, that he had a previous life as a jazz pianist. He gave me his name as George. Oh, Lord, I'm going to forget the name. George. Oh, shoot. I'll think of it in a minute. But he's a famous guy. I never heard of him. I'm not a jazz pianist, aficionado or anything. So I did not say anything to my son and his wife for a little while, right? So shortly before the boy was born, sure enough, it was a boy, blonde, and they named him George. I never told him about the George thing. They named him George, so that worked out. My son's very psychic anyway. But yeah, they named him George. I just recently got him a piano, so he's been enjoying that because, of course, he's still got that.
Wow. Get him a guitar.
Yeah, I'll get him a guitar.
He's going to transpose that talent.
Yes, but I thought that was crazy. The other weird thing is he has, I hope I'm allowed to say this, they might kill me, but he has this little tiny elephant that he's carried around since he was a baby. One time I was giving him his bottle or something and he finally settled and held that little thing. Anyway, he named it Ellie. So then we find out that this jazz pianist, George, his wife was Ellie. Oh. So, I mean, it's like, it goes on and on and on, the things. And when he was a baby, I would play some of that music. I don't know if his dad knows. Yeah, his dad knows this. So I would play some of his music that he had written in a previous life, and he would calm down. So these are amazing times, and people are starting to understand that we are so close to that veil that you can step over it and come back, and you can see things and hear things, and people can understand so much more now. So it's amazing.
So I had a crazy experience with my daughter. My son was kind of one of those ones that I felt before my wife told me she was pregnant. I had this dream, and it was kind of give you an idea. She had a miscarriage a few years before. And I had a dream before we even knew she was pregnant, before any signs or symptoms came on. And it was like, Dad, I'm ready this time. And it was like, what? Like, that's just weird, right? Well, then my wife was pregnant with my daughter. She was about 9 months pregnant, and we were at Costco. Now, we walked in the store, and my wife goes one way, and me and my son go another way. We got 2 cards, and we're going to do our thing. And I go to the produce section. So Costco's are all set up the same. You go through everything. You go buy all the electronics. Now you're in the produce. And this lady's in a like one of the wheeled carts, the little electronic carts. And she putters by, and all of a sudden you're beep, 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 beep. She looks at me and she goes, What's the baby girl do? I go, what? She goes, when's the baby girl due? And I'm like any day now? She goes, still haven't figured out the name, have you? And I go, what? You're right, we haven't. She goes, the goddess names, you can't figure out which goddess name, whether it's Persephone, Athena, or the more obscure. And I'm like, because this is like spot on. And I'm sitting there going, she goes, what's in that belly is amazingly powerful, and you need a powerful name. So utilize the obscure one, because she's going to be more special than you could ever imagine. And she took off.
I got chills.
Oh, I do too. And my daughter's name is Isis Martine.
Oh God, I saw Isis and Osiris, the Egyptian gods, while you were talking. That woman was only sent there to talk to you.
Yeah.
That was a angel that came in quickly to give you that message.
That's what I got goosebumps when you said that, because that's exactly what I felt. So her name's Isis Martine.
Love it.
And the Isis is the Sadic Isis, so ancient Egyptian queen, the goddess of the universe, who carried the secrets of the universe behind her veil. And then Martine is the feminine version of the god Mars, the daughter of Mars of war and strategy.
Right.
And so she has an amazingly powerful name. And she's like an amazingly powerful little girl. 8 going on 28. But yeah, so that was kind of like one of the last, not one of the last like experiences I've had. I went into a tarot card readers one time. And I'm one of those people, and I know you wrote an ebook on this. I'm one of those people that I go into psychics or psychic tarot readers, and I sit down and I read them, and they have no idea what's happening, and they're just like, well, no, hold on, and it's like, man. But I did that for a long time. So have you ever been to Alexandria, Virginia?
Yes, my son, actually, the one we were talking about, they used to live there.
Okay, so Old Town Alexandria, there's a spiritual...
Old Town.
Yep, there's a spiritual bookstore right there.
I missed it. How did I miss it?
I think it's called Sacred Circle. And there's a psychic that used to visit there. Her name's Marie Claire. Amazing woman. Now, this is going to be a little transition. So I did a psychic workshop with her. And the building that they're in, so this is Old Town Alexandria, was about the late 1600s or late 1700s. It was one of the two. It was built in the late late 1700s. John Adams' apartment was like right there. John Adams' house, founding fathers. Right?
Wow.
And so in the upstairs of this building is where we did this kind of indoctrination into psychicism, right? And she does these initiations. It was kind of weird. But the last thing that we had to do was like 2 o'clock in the morning. You're in this house that's 300 years old. We had to go into the closet alone. And there's a candle in there. And you had to blow out the candle and it would become pitch dark. And when you blow out the candle, you should see your past life. And I get sent in there and I blow out the candle. And I open my eyes. and there's a high Egyptian priest standing in front of me. And it was, I don't know if you've ever seen like, it's like you get information, it comes to you, and it's like it was kind of like nice, given to you nice and slow, and you understood all of it, but it happened like that.
Yes.
But it was one
it's
of
like
those.
Info dump. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those, and I walk out of the closet, and I go out of the room, and I'm just kind of like, that was weird. Like, that was unusual. She goes, Josh, did you see the Egyptian priest? And I'm just like, what is going on? Oh, yeah, it's crazy. So past lives are interesting. Now, we have a private social network, all right? And we got a lot of people on there that talk a lot of different aspects of past lives. Jason, I know, has experienced it. Vince, I know, has experienced it. I've definitely experienced it. What are your thoughts on in-between lives, afterlives, past life regressions? I know you're just talking about your grandson there. Have you had any experiences?
Oh, tons, yes. In fact, there used to be this fabulous past life regressionist. I can't find him anymore. I'm afraid maybe he's passed on. I'm not sure. Named Ron DeVasto in Florida. And I was like 24 when I went to see him just a few years ago. Yeah, anyway. So I got a tape, and I still have it, a cassette tape. So, it's a little old. Okay. And he has this amazing voice, and he just takes you back. So every once in a while, I'll just play this tape before I go to sleep, and I'll have the most amazing experiences every time, because it's whatever it is, his voice. And there's other ones that have great voices that can lead you on your own journey. But at the time, I was having a very difficult relationship, marriage. And so I said, I wanted to find out more. Why am I having such a difficult time with this man, and what is going on? And so I had this past life. I could talk about him now because he has passed on. God bless him. He did come to see me through a medium the other day, so he's not mad anymore. Yeah. But anyway, he was in a life with me and I was a Tibetan priest. Okay, he was my brother, and in the family, he was kind of like the screw up, I guess you could say, always getting in trouble, whatever. And I had gone through the priesthood, was chosen, and he wasn't, to go into this training as a monk. And so I kept seeing me with him, trying to teach him, trying to get him to kind of go on the straight, narrow path, and he never would, and was always angry at me. And it explained a lot of the relationship. So, when you go in and you try to get a past life, you want to get one that will relate to your life now, that will help you understand things or understand somebody. And that really did help me understand the dynamic and why I was always trying to help, but it was rejected, and you can't help everybody. People have to help themselves, obviously. But
right.
I had one where I was a slave, and I was a child in a boat, and my father was rowing with all these other slaves in a very thin boat in the ocean, and we all drowned. I mean, it was horrifying. I mean, that was not a fun one to see, but I understood, what was happening. I could feel all the emotions and everything. So that was pretty crazy dream. And I'm not real huge on being on the water in boats. Not crazy about it either. So I think that's a big reason. Yeah.
That would make a ton of sense. Like yes, I personally never had a past life regression. However,
you should.
Yeah. However, I always revert back to the times of the Renaissance. So I had this suspicion that, that's probably one that I relate to.
I'm sure.
I would love to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous Josh has that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. And this kind of thing comes up in readings for me sometimes for people. Just out of the blue, I'll see something and I'll know it's from the past life. Today, I had a doctor's appointment, and this girl, every time I go in there, she knows I'm a psychic medium. So she always hits me up for, oh, tell me something. And this time she wanted to know a past life. So that was this morning. And I saw her as a nurse in World War II. It was, and what her name was and just some things about her life. And it was for her, she was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And, so it's kind of fun when it does really pop cool. up.
Yeah. Our father,
me, anytime, any past life.
You're delayed just a little bit there, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Any past life thing for me comes up in a dream where I'm just a different person in a different setting.
Yes. That happens to me too. Yep. You wake and it was so real. You're like, uh-oh. What did that happen? Did I do that? Or was that somebody? I ran over somebody one time in one of those and I'm thinking, oh my God, did I just kill someone? Oh Lord, I hope not.
Yeah. So this is actually an interesting story. Our father had a past life regression done. Yeah. And when my son was born, my dad lived on the West Coast. I live on the East Coast. I live up in, you said Buffalo earlier. I'm from Rochester. So I'm about 40 minutes away from Buffalo. No. So my dad lived on the East Coast. So we didn't get to see each other often. So my son was about 3. It was the first time he came home, and he came home after the regression. And I was like, he was just acting weird. I was like, what is going on? He's like, I got to tell you. So he had a past life regression done. And they said to him that he was a accountant in Europe, in the UK, and that he had a son. And that son was born, that son that he had was born to one of his sons today. And it was my son. And so he was like, came to my house and he was like, I think he was just trying to understand it. Like, this was my son in a past life. And I don't know if this is common, like where you can, I guess, pass life into families, right? Because that's what it.
Right.
And I don't know. That never really left me. It's always been in the back of my mind.
It's very common, actually, because we have soul families. And, because we love people, we want to come back with them. So we make arrangements to be like, okay, I'm going to come back in this area of the country, like, say, Rochester, or like for me, I was born in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Same hospital as George Clooney. We're some related, I don't know, 15th cousin or something. But it's like you gravitate to the same place and then the same family groups. You might be a cousin one time, or you might be mother, daughter, sister, whatever, but you try to stay close as you can. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep. I'm letting you guys go because I got 1,001 questions. I can go on all night. So
me too.
Steal the thunder from you guys.
So one of my questions that I have is, like, in this conversation you're having with the three of us, is anybody coming through and you're just kind of like, whoa, how do you like have a normal conversation without letting them come through and interrupt you? Because to me it would be like, I would never pay attention to any of the living, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, there are times when that has happened, but as I got older and worked on it more, they know when I'm going to work and when I'm not working, and when to come. And so I have, like, spirit guides, gatekeeper, that kind of keep things at bay. Like, no, you can't do this now. She's busy talking about something else. So, or they're like, come on in, and go for it. So I feel like I have that team that helps me. So now I don't really have to deal with it too much. Yeah, I don't really have that problem anymore at all. It's sort of like, I know another medium, she would like put a cap on her head. I forget what her name is. Anyway, I'll think of it later. I'm terrible about that. But she put a cap on when she's not working. So everybody would just leave her alone. But all you got to do is say, hey, I'm not working, so don't bother me, please. I'll set a time to sit and listen and help you, whatever you need, but not right now.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So you open and close the door.
Yes, exactly. Some people visualize it as like a light switch. Turn the light switch on, you're ready, you're open, you're ready to listen. Turn the light switch off. But when you drink or you like take medicine or like muscle relaxers are one that just make me really crazy. If you do something like that, it's like all bets are off. Everything's on. It's like you're not really thinking clearly, so you're open. Mm-hmm. So you have to be really careful when you're a sensitive. You guys have probably noticed that. If you, if you drink too much or you do something that will change your perception too much, you're too open, it can be a little scary.
I tend to what I do in those times, because I know exactly what you're talking about, is I tend to go into like a hyperbole. Just I focus on one thing and I try to keep my train of thought on one subject matter. So it'd be like whether it's looking at the stars, or if you're at a campfire, staring at the campfire, hyper critically analyzing the campfire, looking at all the motions of everything going back and forth.
Perfect.
But it just you take your focus off of random things. Keep control of the mind. Keep focus of the mind, and that's one of the biggest keys.
That's perfect advice. Yeah. That is perfect. Yep, that's great.
I've had to do it my whole life, so
it really
you had to learn it.
It is a consent-based situation as well.
Yes.
I know some people are wondering, how do you protect yourself? What's going on? How do you keep things out? It's a consent-based thing. You just set your boundaries and that's it, really, right?
Well, we've had people on before who were psychic and they didn't know, or they're playing around with tarot or whatever, and they've had some really bad experiences when the consent was given and they weren't familiar with what the consent was given to. Vince, you guys had the same guest on Makes You Think, right? What was her?
Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay
Sharman.
Lindsay Sharman, yeah, she had an evil entity attached to her that terrorized her for years in her teenage years. And I mean, I believe it legitimately. I mean, it's these things. Sometimes you don't know what you're messing with. And there's we have a Christian pastor in our chat. He goes, not everything on the other side is good.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I grew up Catholic, and I'm extremely religious but spiritual, and I pray and I ask for protection, and I feel very protected all the time by Jesus. I've called him in many a time when I didn't feel things were right, or somebody came near me or whatever that I felt funny about. Call in all the big guns when you need to.
Now, a few of us on this platform, we had an experience, and it was kind of like this. I put it out there because someone kind of contacted me, and I had this vision my whole life. And this vision was kind of like where you're walking through, kind of your hands are down like this, and you're touching the tall grass. And then you come into kind of like an open pasture, and then there's rolling hills in the background, green rolling hills. And then off in the distance, there's this kind of like the raise of a hill, and there's a willow tree. And this is where I used to go to get into deep trance meditations. So I used to close my eyes, and this was like kind of like the entry portal, right? Like you walk through the grass, you feel the wind blow, the warm breeze, and you'd walk up the hill and you'd lay down in the willow tree. So I said this to a few people, and a few people came back to me and go, that's the same thing that I do. And I mean, there's probably a good 10 people that we have on our social platform that individually came to me and kind of were like, yeah, like similar. Some people were same. So it's pretty crazy how, and I call this the spaceship theory. And now Jay's like, oh, here we go, spaceship theory again. But spaceship theory is basically, what if we all lived in a simulation? There's only like 10,000 of us, and we're all hooked up into a simulation. They got bored. The simulation, the AI created billions of other people to make us not feel so lonely. And the 10,000 of us just keep on running into each other. And we've lived.
Who knows? Yeah. I know. That would be so cool. But
kind of scary.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'll tell you one of the visions that I had that I don't know why this relates, and I'm just seeing the whole thing again, is when I would go into this meditation where I would go, and then I would walk in, and there was this garden, and there was this fountain in the middle, and I would sit in a bench by the fountain, and then one day I looked down, and the floor was like see-through, but on the other side was an exact replication of what was on this side. on the other side. Sort of like if you flipped this over, it would be the same bench, the fountain, and on the other side, but the colors were different, and it was just so beautiful, and it was so peaceful. But I could see that it was just right there under this glass-like floor. It was yeah. So that's always kind of like, oh, so that's the other world. It's just right there. Just a reflection of this world, only more gorgeous and amazing.
And that's the way I looked at it as well, is that is like the transference through the veil, is we all experience it in different perspectives. Tell me about animals. How did this come about?
Okay, well, I've always loved animals. I always had this affinity with them and could just like understand them. When I was, I don't know, maybe I was 8 years old, we finally got a dog. I'd been begging for 8 years, obviously. Got a dog, and then my mother would not let it in the house. It had to stay in the laundry room. So I used to do my homework in the laundry room. I would sleep on the floor with the dog in the laundry room. I mean, if the dog couldn't come in, I stayed out there. So like, I just always had this thing with any kind of animal or any kind of suffering like that. And when I started doing readings and sitting in development circles first to learn how to do readings and how to give a message and all that, animals just kept coming in. All kinds, birds, snakes, dogs, cats, horses, you name it. Ostriches, everything came in. So then I would be disappointed. Now I'm disappointed if an animal doesn't pop in because, I love them so much. When just the other day I did a reading and this man came in holding a poodle. And I said, did you have a poodle when you were little? She goes, I did. So her dad came in holding the dog she hadn't seen since she was a little child. And this woman was, 50s or 60s. So it was so fun. I mean, it really made her reading to know that her little dog came with her dad. I mean, yeah, it was great that her dad came in, but she was so excited about her little poodle.
Dad, come back some other time. I want the dog.
Yeah, exactly. Just bring an animal and you'll be good.
Huh. And so do you communicate with animals in real time?
Yes. Yeah, and we all can communicate more with our animals. And yes, being psychic and sensitive certainly helps. It's like I never thought that I couldn't. So there was never that barrier, and I always believed it because I could just look, and I can look at my animals and know something's amiss. Mm-hmm. Or they can look at me and I know they want a drink of water. I'll just know. Or I want that snack. I think I told this story about one time I was in bed and I love vanilla wafers. Okay, it's my guilty pleasure, vanilla wafers. And I used to give one to each of the dogs. And I had done it for like a week. I was like on a binge, I guess. Anyway, so it'd been like a month and I hadn't had any vanilla wafers. And one of my little poodles comes up to me and just stares at me. And I look at her, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's the matter? I saw the box of vanilla wafers. She telepathically showed me the box of vanilla wafers. That's what she wanted. She knew what she wanted. So of course I had to get some. But they will tell us. I had a dog when I was doing that television show for Battle of the Psychics in Ukraine. They took us out to a park and we never knew what we were going to do from 1 minute to the next. But they said, okay, there's a lady with a dog is going to come up and you're going to read for her. I said, okay, awesome. So she comes up with this dog, never seen them, didn't know who they were. Of course, they're even speaking in, were Ukrainian. So yeah. I couldn't really understand, but I had a translator. But the dog was telling me they had just moved apartments, that he missed his old apartment. He missed the dog that had previously died 3 months ago that was in their family and what it looked like. So like I was telling this woman all the stuff this dog was telling me, and she was like, right on, and that the dog had a sore paw. And I'm like, his back left foot, he's telling me still hurts. She goes, oh yeah, he hurt it like 6 months ago or something. So the things just, they come in and they want to communicate with us. They want to tell us. So you just have to sit and stare at them and, okay, what are you trying to tell me? And just be really quiet. And like you said, focus on the one thing, just focus on the animal. on its breathing, or, I mean, I can do it without being in front of the animal. I can see a picture of it or just connect with the person and get the animal, but it's better when you're in person and you can touch it, feel their energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wonderful gift. And I try to teach everybody I can to try to do that more with their animals.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Was it really the back left foot that was wrong with that dog?
Absolutely. And I had another reading for a lady, and I had said, I think it was a right front paw. And I said, something's wrong with this dog's right front paw. And she said, no, they're fine. They're not licking it. They're not doing anything to it. Sure enough, but they took the dog to the vet. They trusted me that much. Took the dog to the vet. It was a big dog too. And apparently it had an infection inside that paw that you couldn't really, you couldn't see from the outside, but on the inside of the paw, on the bottom where the pad is, it had a really bad infection and could have lost its foot. Wow. So yeah, I was like, thank you for telling me to help this poor dog. Because, you just sometimes don't know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
My dog has a problem with its back left paw, and we actually have to put socks over it because he'll lick it. He'll just keep licking it. That's why I asked you that, because I didn't know if something was coming through, and you're just like,
it could have been. But now I was going back to that dog. That dog was a big black lab.
So is mine.
Is that yours too? Then it could be for you as well. Then okay, it was a black lab in that park. So see, now that happens too. Like, you'll cross-reference something that's already happened or you've read to something present day. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you poor little guy.
Sometimes he's not little. He's like 120 pounds.
I mean, well, big monster, huh?
Yeah. He's a sweet dog, though. He's very cool.
So, how does it come to you? Is it I think this is one of the. I don't think it's hard to explain, but sometimes it can be a little difficult to explain. Is it pictures? Is it floating images? Is it animated? Is it is there audio? Is it just audio?
It's okay. So in the beginning, it used to just be pictures, and in the real beginning, it would be like those old movies where it's like that sepia colored, and you're like looking through a little thing, and it's going really fast. So that has happened, and I would be like, slow down. A medium told me, tell it to slow down, so that you can focus in on a picture. But I would see like a little movie. Okay. Now it's fast. Sometimes I'll see a quick picture like in my mind, and then I'll hear. Every once in a while, it's outside my ear, but most of the time it's like inside, like a thought that's loud. Just like, okay, I'll just hear a sentence or whatever. Or, like you said, you're from Rochester, New York. It'll be like, yeah, I'm hearing Rochester, New York, just the words. So it's so weird. But I used to complain to my guides, like, hey, I want to see pictures. I like pictures. I like to see. And then they go, but it takes longer. So it's faster for us to speak to you clairaudiently and give you the information like that fast. Give me numbers, give me details, names, places fast, instead of like zooming in on a map, expecting me to make sure I know where that is, or seeing the name written out and read it. So I'm like, I guess they're right. They are right about that. It's faster. So now it's mostly clairaudience, but if I whine enough, I get pictures.
One of the audience members asked if we can people telepathically communicate with each other, and how would that look?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And we do it all the time. You do it with your spouses, your girlfriends, your boyfriends. You know how you know that what they're thinking? Like, I want spaghetti tonight. Yeah, me too. I just thought that. And with twins, oh my God, they're the best example. There's so many studies of twins and the way they read each other's minds telepathically. I love that show, Darcy and Stacy. Anybody, you guys? I don't know if you watch that. Okay, it's on Bravo. Bravo. No, TLC. Anyway, they're twin ladies, and they're amazing, and they're always picking up on each other's sentences and all of that. But the way it just, you hear things, you feel things the same, you see things. So it's all of those senses: clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience. You can even smell things the same. Did you smell that? I smelled that. Oh my God, Dad's visiting us. You smell this cigar? Yeah, I smelled it too. I've smelled my mother's perfume, you know? So it's Shalimar. Like, that's not, people don't wear that anymore. And, you know, when I smell that, I know she's there.
Wow.
I've, from my experience, it's always been kind of very similar, whether it's telepathic or it's transcending the veil, right? I know there's this one time I was sleeping in a hotel room. I had a big contract. We did McDonald's. We renovated them for IT. And I was sharing a room with one of the guys on my team. And about 7 o'clock in the morning, I was in California. I woke up to a little girl, like, talking outside my ear. It's like, help us, please help us. And I hear, like, these older men behind her yelling, like, get back over here, stop, why'd that happen? Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And I'm like, what? Like, it was as if they were, like, talking right there by my ear. And it was the craziest thing in the world. I'm like, what the hell is... Like, I woke up the guy, like, my work. I'm like, dude, did you hear that? He's like, what are you talking about? I turned on the TV, and Gabrielle Gifford was just shot, and the 9-year-old girl died, and all the men died. And I'm, like, freaking out. Like, what just...
Look at that.
Yeah. But it was like, it's like... Wow. And then one day I'm driving, and it's my father, just in the passenger side. And it was just like, what's up, man? And I'm like, whoa. And like, you turn, and there's nobody there, but it's there. And you can't... It's just that presence. That person comes up behind you. You feel the same energy. That presence is there. And then there's this transference of information. I don't even know. It's like it was said, but it wasn't said, right? It's like someone says something, and it's not the actual part of hearing. It's just the part of the knowing inside the mind of what they said. It's the best way I can explain it. It's hard to... Yeah.
It's just a knowing. That's kind of how we explain it. It's like you just know something. Yeah. And if we pay attention to those things, it keeps us safe. It keeps our family members safe as much as we can. It truly does. It really does help us. So if everybody could, they should teach it in schools. I mean, every kid in school should learn how to meditate, how to access that sixth sense and trust it, do exercises, and just really, so they don't get made fun of, and they're just like, yes, this is cool, I can do this, it's normal.
Yeah. How often do kids sit down and silence their mind? We have somebody who used to teach who would have teenagers do that, and it was a profound experience for everybody.
Well, I think that's one of the problems. I mean, the moral and ethical foundation of our country our world has been ripped away. The cultural aspect is being torn away. There's not enough time in the day to sit and actually think about things. I tend to think about Revelations because a lot of people have been talking about this lately, and the mark of the beast that's placed upon the head. And I always look at this as that this is the calcification or the covering up of the third eye. This is the shunting down of the rejection of who we truly are and how we are actually connected. And the further we get away from that, the further we lose our humanity and move towards things like transhumanism or, synthetic human being interactions and these types of things. And I think we need to, wow, someone didn't want me to say that. I think we need to kind of do a whole reverse and go back to nature and like sit down with each other and really try to hone in on these skill sets. And kind of what you were just saying is we should teach these in school. We should teach how to... There's nothing wrong with calming the mind, teaching how to calm the mind, silent the voice inside and relax and go inside instead of just allowing it to all happen outside. A lot of kids these days, they have mental and emotional problems. The reason is because they bottle
Right.
up all these emotions, they have no outlets, and then they burst outwardly instead of being able to process it internally, explain it, experience it, feel it, express it, whatever it might be. And it's just sad. I call this, people like the unveiling. I call this the unveiling because this is what we're having. This is what's happening. As people are waking up to the same realization that this is where the world needs to go, and we're not moving in that direction.
No, we're moving into this weakened, robot type situation. Just tell me what to do. I'll do what you say. I'm not going to think for myself because I have no power now because I've left my own power. So, yeah, it's terrible.
So,
Really,
Jake, you got a question?
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead, because I wanted to jump into something else, but you can go right ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I know you do Zoom psychic meetings and stuff. What's a session like for you? What's the setting like? What happens?
Well, so I offer a different type of thing. So usually what I'll do is ask, like, what kind of reading are you looking for? Do you want some animal communication, mediumship, psychic only kind of questions about career, love life, future, those kind of things. And normally in a reading, it's kind of all those three things and whatever else might come in, maybe past lives or spiritual growth, or are you on your spiritual path, different things like that. So it kind of runs the gamut from somebody who wants just mediumship. They want to speak with their dad or their mom or both. And then there's people that, they want to know what's going on in the stock market. They want to know when their house is going to sell, what the price is going to get. They want to know details. So that's fun too. I like numbers. I love it. I love
getting... What's the lotto numbers for tonight? Right?
Yes,
well,
that's my only thing I haven't been able to get yet. It's like, and they say, well, that's what your gift is not for you to become, the multi-million-dollar lottery winner. But hey, I keep buying tickets. You just never know.
We had a
dollar in a dream.
Yeah, we had.
I know. I'll keep trying.
Weeks before, and you go, okay, John, what are the lotto numbers? You should have them. You should be sending them to you from the future.
I know. I'm going to work on that, and I really have.
I want 10%.
Yeah, no, don't forget the little people.
Okay, 10. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Well,
yeah, that would be. I haven't really tried. I have done well on horse races, though. I can pick horses. I don't know why, but then sometimes, yes, yeah, that's true. But then sometimes it's the animal that breaks its leg or something terrible happens. It's like that one. Oh, wow. It's like that'll pop up because that one will be talked about a lot, or it's, see, and I'm like, no, not the one that got hurt, the one that wins. So sometimes, the wires are a little crossed, but keep trying.
I want to take a little bit deeper return. You mentioned Edgar Casey in the beginning.
Mm.
Now, this is the sleeping prophet, and I'm very familiar with Edgar Casey. We had friends of our family who were counselors and now board members at ARE.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is the Edgar Casey Research and Camp. It's this whole foundation that does everything Edgar Casey. Really cool. Mm-hmm. And so he was a sleeping prophet. He came out and said Atlantis would arise and all these different things. Do you have any prophecy? Do you see prophecy? Do you see things that are going to happen in the future? We had an odd experience, and I'll tell you about it. Jake can tell you about it because this was kind of real. This happened real time. And it's really happening right now. But I want to know what you think, and I want to see if there's a cross correlation.
Okay. Was there a subject or something that you wanted me to?
What do you think? Do you think there's going to be any cataclysms? Do you think there's going to be any world-changing events? Prophecy, anything like that happening?
I do see things like that. Before 9/11, I did not know it was a plane hitting a building, but I saw people running with masks. Mm-hmm. But I thought explosions, but I didn't know exactly where. But I kept having this terrible dream of people running. And then I'll see flooding. I don't know what it is about the flooding, but I see before floods, some earthquakes I'll get, some world events I'll get, and plane crashes, things like that. I've seen those specifically. I do see California's earthquake is coming soon. So I'm really worried about that in California, in San Francisco area, in the LA area, both areas I'm very concerned about within the next 6 to 8 months. So that, so everybody just be prepared out there. That's for sure. That does worry me. And I've written them down and they've been published, but there's some other ones like a train. I can't remember exactly now, but there's something about a train being attacked by some terrorists in a bomb situation. But sometimes I see things and then I hear about something that was averted, which thank God it is, because if I don't get enough, I can't go calling the FBI, hey, or I'll be in jail, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful who you talk to and who you say things to. But yeah, how about you guys? What is it that you're picking up?
Well, we had a gentleman on the show, Lynn Buchanan. He's a former remote viewer, so he was part of the U.S. Army's Stargate project with Ingo Swann and Hal Puthoff, all those guys. So the Men at Stare at Goats, he was part of that program in the U.S. Army's remote viewing program. He's a trainer. So he was on the show, and he's in his 80s.
Cool.
Jay asked him a question. Jay said, "What do you think? Where do you think the United States is going to be by 2050?" And he looks us straight in the eye. His face went from smiling and says, "I was hoping you weren't going to ask that question." And then he said, "I see the United States very, very. The world is depopulated, maybe 1 billion people or less." He said he sees few cities, very like super cities, like small little congregations of people. This is after a major natural cataclysm, not war or anything like that. And he said that he thinks most likely it was the La Palma volcano erupted in the Canary Islands and falls off into the Atlantic, producing a tidal wave that takes out Europe, Africa, and the United States, East coastlines. Crazy enough, because this was a month and a half ago that he said this. And literally, La Palma is erupting right now. And already part of the island has started to fall into the Atlantic Ocean. And so we're sitting here going,
Ooh. I saw a volcano. This is years ago, and I had a vision about in Madagascar, a volcano erupting, and it was going to be really, really bad. But they're going to start. It's going to be one after the other. So there's going to be a few coming.
So on the geological aspect, it's a compensation mechanism within the hydraulic aspect of the Earth's crust and mantle. And so when it starts alleviating pressure on one side, it's got to alleviate that pressure on the other end. I actually predicted the Haitian earthquake back in 2010 with this exact premise, because there's a Chilean earthquake about 2 months prior. And if you look at the stress points on the mantle, you can actually see the fracture point goes into the Haitian area.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah. So,
good. Well, I know there's some scary things coming, but it's like we can't be fixated on that, but to be always prepared, right? Always be prepared for any kind of disaster and, be able to take care of your family.
Now, do you think that the mind creates reality and that the consensus operating together in this kind of psychic paradigm, even whether it's known or unknown, conscious or subconscious, operates to actually produce the construct of reality or perceptual reality?
Absolutely. So enough people focus on a certain thing happening, it can cause that intense energy and for that to become a reality. Absolutely. It's sort of like that, the premise, and it works for me all the time. If there's something that I need to happen or whatever it is, I just put my emotion and all of that and believe that it's already happened. Like, great and happy and grateful and all that, sure enough, things happen. It's the same thing. And then if millions of people are fearful about something, that causes all kinds of problems, like this variant with the COVID virus and the different things that are happening too. A lot of fear-based things are causing things to be worse in certain places where it didn't have to happen. Didn't have to be like that.
100% agreed. And that's the scary thing, is that, you know, human beings, because like we were talking about earlier, is because of our cultural aspect, the delineation from our cultural aspect of how this used to be part of our culture. People used to have shamans and medicine men, you know, as part of their family circle, part of their, you know, their tribal circles. Even in the 1800s, you know, as, you know, we progressed west, we had that figure within our cultural standpoint, even with, you know, the Anglo-Saxons, you know, society. So, you know, that deviation away from that is cause, I think, that the allowing of that fear propaganda to take hold, of the susceptibility, the vulnerability of the human mind to be more susceptible to that level of manipulation.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. Well said. Yep.
Sad.
That's it. You know, people that poo-poo spirituality and religion and all of that don't see the big picture of what it's all about and how it keeps people together and cohesive in doing the right things instead of just believing what you're told.
Yeah. Well, that's the dangerous thing, is believing what you're told. I created this platform because we were heavily censored on multiple different social platforms, and I saw a lot of people out there just putting information that I believe to be incorrect. I've studied the ancient mystery schools for well over 25 years. I've studied religion, philosophy, anything you can think of, and I just saw so much bad information out there. So I came out with this, and we just have a motto here. It's never believe anything anybody says, no matter who they are, what authority they bring, no matter what book they present, unless you can truly prove it with your own volition, your own research, and your own belief structure. And that's the only way that you should ever go out there and accept anything anybody says. You have to hypercritically analyze and question everything, especially these days with the digital platforms that are out there.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Yep. And I tell clients that too. Just because I say this and you have all this overwhelming evidence, you do it too. You try to sit in contact and get a confirmation from your loved ones that it was them that came when you had your reading with me. You double, triple check things. That's the only way it becomes real for people, right?
Yeah.
It's the truth. You have to question everything. I question everything I get. When I get information from my guides or something like that, I want it in triplicate. Then I need it verified 3 times. So then I'll believe exactly what's going on or whatever it is they told me. So.
And do you ever have a problem, not necessarily a problem, but the symbolic relationship of information? You said earlier that you see floods a lot, right? But water is this transducent medium, right? So it really is the veil. It is one of the elementals. So there's so much symbolic relationship in water. So flood can really mean so many different things on energetic levels, spiritual levels, conscious levels, on a literal level. And so do you ever have a problem in kind of like interpretation of that?
I used to, much more so, but now it's like when it's a lucid dream and I'm in it and I can change things when I'm in it, it's like I ask questions. Is this for me? Is this because I'm going through this? Troubled waters, and then it gets calm, and then you turn right, and then you go over a cliff or whatever. That's happened anyway. But then I've learned. Then I've just learned to go, okay, this is a world issue. This is something coming, and then I say where, and then I'll get a lot of times, the area or the city or whatever. But then it's sort of, how do you warn people? If I know people in that city, I'll say something. But it's difficult to go out there and say things that people will. It's bad enough, you get a lot of trolls and you get a lot of hateful things that people say, you're going to hell and all that good stuff. And it's in the Bible, don't speak to the other world and all these things. But I just pray for those people too.
Well, it's only in the
I just learned
versions.
It's
only in the canonized versions that it says that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Where other people's thoughts and things got to change things, right?
You always have to
again, don't believe what you hear or read.
Exactly. and that's one of the biggest points there is, do you trust the Roman Empire? No. Well, that's literally what canonized means, is that the Caesar said, this is the good one. Read this one. So,
right.
That's my perspective on it. Tell me about, because I see some paintings back there.
You know what I was going to ask because of the
one
over...
I was going to block that out, but it's my art studio. It's the only quiet space.
The one on top, doesn't it remind you of a volcano?
That's what I was thinking too. Is it reminding you of...
Oh, that one back there. Whoop. I can't even... I'm terrible at this. That one right there. Up there?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good on the
looks like lava monitor. It looks like lava flow. It does. That's what I was thinking when I was looking at it. But I was...
and when I painted it wasn't lava though. I don't really know. It was like a vision. And the ones up here were from dreams. Like I saw, these are hands in space that came like out of space, and it's just a hand holding these crystal balls. So like that was a vision I had in a lucid dream, and the other one has eyes. You can't really see it. But it was like these eyes in space that all of a sudden you just saw all these little blinking eyes. It was such a vivid dream. Like I woke up, wrote all down how I perceived and saw it, and even sketched it. And then I had to paint it. It was like I had to get it on canvas. It was crazy. I love those. That's why I love art, because you just get lost. And I know I have help from the spirit world. And when I do spirit portraits, that's a lot of fun, because then they have to show me what they look like, right? Because I need to get their face and their everything on there. So it's fun doing both.
Do you always see the spirit in the earthly form?
Yeah. Oh, and they show me when they think they look the best. So it's always kind of fun. Normally that's what they'll do. But like some people, like they'll show how they look to that person. So let's say you last saw your grandmother when you were like 12. So it's going to be how you remember your grandma at 12. She'll come to me like that so that you recognize her. But then if she's talking to her daughter or her husband, she's in her 20s or 30s and looking good, and she's all dressed up, and I'm going to do the same thing. Heck yeah, I'm going to be, I'll do that. I always want to look good, even in the spirit world. You got to show your best.
Have you ever... go ahead, James.
So I have an interesting question.
My mom speaking to me, I know.
Go ahead, Vince.
So have you experienced any comedy from spirits in any way?
Oh, comedy? Yes. Often if there's somebody in the family who comes in and they're known as the funny one who would always crack jokes, I will sense that. Either sometimes they'll tell me like a bit of a funny story, like, oh, they're telling me about somebody who sunk the canoe and, blah, blah, blah. So they'll give me funny stories that the family will recognize, or they'll just be laughing the whole time. Like I'll see somebody in spirit and they're just laughing, and I can feel that joy and that brevity about they're having fun, and that's their personality. And I love bringing that through, because then if you bring someone through and you say, oh, they were so funny, they laughed all the time, and the person's going, no, they never laughed, they were mean and miserable, and you certainly don't have my dad. You've got to make sure you're picking up that personality, because it's important for evidence. So yeah, I do get funny ones, and often they're the loudest because they want to talk and they want to make it fun, and lighten it. because, oftentimes the clients will cry because it's moving to speak to your loved ones. And so then it's fun to have Uncle Gene or somebody come in and start, being funny and telling funny things on somebody. So I like that.
So we had Dr. Bruce Solheim on the show.
Oh, okay.
Good dude, great dude. He was just at Contact in the Desert, been on Coast a few times. He talks about what's called the quantum nexus. Now, he's a psychic, but he's also communicates with Anzar, this ancient alien spirit.
Yes, I heard him. Yes, okay.
So I'm curious about you. Are you only limited? Because I know from my own experiences, and people don't want to hear my stories. I've told them hundreds of times, but I want to hear from your experiences. Have you ever communicated with anything that was not human, other than not angel, not demon, but just not like, maybe you didn't know what it was, maybe it was interdimensional, maybe it was, who knows?
Yes, I have. One was a definite angelic saint who, I was in Ukraine, and I knew nothing about the Ukrainian saints in the Orthodox Church. But I saw this saint and they told me their name. I forget the name now, but I can't remember. But I described how they were dressed, what kind of garb they were wearing. And apparently it was the patron saint for women who, want to bear children. And the woman I was reading for has been trying to have a child. And so she had been praying to this saint nonstop. Well, I got goosebumps. Ooh. So that blew me away. It was so powerful. That being was like, I'm getting chills, and because that power was so overwhelming. Another time I've had where I have seen ET-like figures that have come to me. It's been many years since they've visited, but I've had those experiences, and they were good. They were positive for me. And then I was shown back to when my grandfather passed and I was 3. And it was the first time I had contact with these tall white beings with very long arms and long fingers. But they were very tall, whitish gray. Well, pretty much white from what I remember. Very light colored with the large eyes. But they comforted me. They were there to comfort me because I was, missing my grandfather. Yeah. But they visited me a few times since. Not often, but every so often. Yeah. So I'm open to all of that. I just don't, I don't purposely look for that, but every so often something very powerful will come in, especially if I'm reading for somebody who's very knowledgeable, like you guys, and very spiritual and understands a lot and has had experiences. They're very open to those experiences. So then it's more likely something very special comes in, which is so truly amazing. It's, I love it.
I was doing I was doing research, about a 2.5-year research on Solomon's Temple one time, and this was the alchemical aspect of Solomon's Temple. So, and we were gonna have a fire in my backyard, just a few friends over. I went to take a shower, and water is just like, for me, whenever I'm near water, in water, around water, weird things begin to happen. And so for me, I don't know if other people have this experience. When you close your eyes when you're in water or a shower, you open them back up. After you open back up, you don't know if your eyes were closed or open the whole time that you've been in there. You kind of lost track of your mind during the time that you're in there. This one time I'm in there, and I had my eyes closed, and everything got really, really kind of dark and narrow, and I just felt this presence come towards me, and it felt 7 feet tall, and it looked like a gargoyle. And I'm like, stop. And it said a few things to me, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not what I expected from the gargoyle. And it's like, I take this appearance, right, and it gives me its name, and its name was Jael, 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 And I'm sitting there going, why is it giving me a Hebrew name? Why is it giving me a Hebrew name? But everything always gives me a Hebrew name. So I go and, it gives me this information about Solomon's Temple. And, so Solomon's Temple in the Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant. So, anyways, I go to the fire. I tell my best friend about this. He's like, well, did you look up the name? I'm like, well, no. Well, go figure. This is actually a biblical character. And so one of my theories is that Jacqueline and Boaz, the two cherubims, that are the two main pillars of Solomon's Temple, are actually your eyes. And so we go out there, and this biblical character is the one that actually stabbed the left eye of the king. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of crazy. It's an actual biblical character. So I don't really think too much of it. I do some writings. I kind of finish my whole thesis on it. A year later, my grandmother passes away. I'm at my mother's house, and my mother is very, very psychic, but very, very Christian. And so she doesn't really, she just, it's God talking to me. It's just God talking to me. That's all for her. It's just God talking to her. So I tell her this story, and the room gets really thick. And she goes, let me get a book. And she comes back with this book called Angels and Demons of the Ancient World. And she goes, I hope you're on the right side. And she turns, and there's the name Jael. The cherubim, the guardian angel and protector of the Ark of the Covenant.
Wow.
And I just went, like, no way. Mm-hmm. Like, and it was like, wow, this is like, and she's like, oh my God, you were touched by an angel. I'm like, well, this is just this weird.
See?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And water is a fabulous conductor.
Yeah.
So of energy, and can put you in that state. So cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
And so that's not the first one. I've had many experiences like that, but just something. Yeah, they've heard them a few times. Some of them I don't talk about because they're just. Yeah, some of them you just don't talk about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
So tell me about Paranormal Investigator. I want to know a little bit about this.
Okay.
So
well,
go ahead, jump into it. I want to hear this.
Okay. When I was living out in Las Vegas, I lived out there for about 6 years, and now I'm in Georgia for the last few years. But I worked with a group, and I'm sure if I could get back out there, I could work with them some more. Route 66 Paranormal Investigators, and it is headed up by a guy named Lyle Sharman, who's a private investigator also. Very well respected. He used to run the security at one of the big casinos in Vegas. Anyway, so we investigated several places when I was out there. One of the most coolest, I thought, we've done a bunch of the ones like the Ghost Adventure guys have done. Yeah. And Lyle's been on their show a few times too. But there's a place called Grasshopper Junction in Arizona where there was this terrible case in the 70s. Was it 70s? Yeah, 70s. These two brothers went in, robbed this store. It's out in the middle of nowhere on this stretch of highway. You can't see anything from either side. It's just really definitely out there. And the brothers murdered this couple. They were in the house in the back, so they went into the store. They couldn't get into the store. So they broke in, murdered these two poor people, got the keys, took their money and whatever they could find, and left. They were caught. They weren't very smart criminals either. They were caught not too far later, not too many days later, I guess. But so we went out there to investigate. This is, after the fact, many decades later. One of the brothers had contacted Lyle. He's been trying to get out on appeals for all these years, saying he didn't do it. So Lyle had me and the group go out there, and we were going to prove one way or the other, see what we would get.
Right.
So he took me out there. I knew nothing. They told me nothing about what had happened there, anything. That's the way I like it. I don't want to know anything ahead of time because it'll color my reaction or whatever I get. And so we go out there, and he takes me to this building, and the first thing I say is, the door's been moved. The door used to be here. And he researched and found out I was correct. In the 70s, the door was on the other side of the building. So I knew that. Ooh, I got goosebumps again. I know the lady's back. Okay. The lady who's murdered, I can feel her coming back. She came in then, and she's come in because I'm talking about this. Okay. I'm not going to cry. Okay. Anyway, so I saw everything that happened. I saw them come in. One came in from one door, one came in from the other side. I saw them shoot them where in the living room, and I saw how they did it. I saw it was the two brothers. I had one of their names. I don't think I got both names, but I at least got one of it, Robert and Roger. So they're similar names anyway. But anyway, these two brothers, the Murrays, one has since died. One lost his appeal. He's still in prison, and he's very ill right now. But we did all kinds of investigations in there about what happened. And the woman came to me during the time we sat in there. We had all kinds of evidence of things moving, and we're talking. Things are being turned over. We had a penny drop from the sky. An apport came in. But then we brought her daughter there, and I did a reading for her, and her mother came in and told her everything, things that I didn't even want to repeat that she had said to her, because, you just don't want to repeat certain things. But when I said them, she started crying. She said, those are the last words my mother told me, So Jackie Applebaum, that's her name. Anyway, I feel her. So it's been years since I've had her around. But anyway, so that was amazing to me that it was able to shed light on, yes, absolutely, those were the guys that did the crime. I don't care what they're saying, they're lying. And Lyle provided some evidence too. They're not going to accept my evidence as a medium that because I talked to the spirit and they told me what happened, that, the guy did it. But everything lined up. Things that the police, Lyle got all the police reports, so things that weren't known, I never could have, when I would never do it anyway. But things that weren't in the newspaper, that wasn't common knowledge, things that were told during that seance, so to speak, with her, so that it pinpointed all those things in the case, so that they really did respect what we did, because it did kind of seal the deal for them, and they're still there in prison. But pretty amazing things to do that.
Yeah, do you know the year of the penny?
That was the big thing. I remember, because I said, make sure you write down what the year was. But I don't remember if we could figure out what it meant. Like, it wasn't the year of the murder, but so it may have been somebody's birthday, but I don't think we figured that out. I'll have to ask Lyle. I don't remember that. If you figured it out.
Do you remember what year that murder happened?
I think it was 71.
Somebody was
Quite
saying.
I was a kid.
73, yeah.
What was 73?
They were asking if the year in the penny was 1973.
Oh, why?
Well, they've been pretty much. This person's a little bit psychic, that's for sure.
So remember that group I was telling you about, and we're 80% correct? He was 100% correct.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. Yeah, he was always spot on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody had said,
I'll find out. Okay, I'll have to ask Lyle. He's still got that penny. He better. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, and we'll find out.
Now, has there ever been a time where you actually worked with the police?
Yes, I have. A few times. And with private detectives. Like with the police, I work with the police. I'm not going to work with the family without the police involved for my own safety and for, it's just not smart to do that. But there was a police detective in Las Vegas, and he brought me out to where there was a robbery at this woman. She passed away, but her son was looking after the house, and it was broken into. And so I went in. They didn't tell me anything. They said, meet me here. He was kind of like, well, we'll see if this chick's a real medium or psychic or whatever. So I knew I was being tested, and that's fine. So I walk in and I heard immediately the name of the girl, there was a girl. I said there was a girl and there was a guy. They both robbed the house, their boyfriend and girlfriend. Her name is, I forget, Andrea or something like that. And I said, they've been here twice and they're going to come back again. And I saw the things that they took, paintings, different things, and they're coming back for more. And I said, the boyfriend's got a record. He's already been in trouble for robbery, drugs, I didn't get his name, but I described him and how tall he was and all that stuff. And I described her nationality. And anyway, so sure enough, so they set like a trap, waited, watched that house. And sure enough, those people came back and they arrested him. And her name was Andrea or whatever it was. And the guy matched the description, had a record, all that stuff. So that was fun. It was fun to kind of help them. I mean, the police did the work. All I did was kind of confirm what was going to happen and who it was. But, you know, so that's fun. I don't mind helping. And I've helped find missing people too. And that's can be very difficult and sad too when they've passed. But I do what I can.
Well, I want a reading. I'm going to book a reading with you.
Oh, all right. I'd love to do one for you. That'd be fun.
And if we wanted to book readings with you, we can find you on your website, right? And that's
JenniferWallens.com.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share this link so everybody has that if you guys want. Because I'm telling you, I think everybody needs to go out there and get a reading from you because you are 100% legit. I not a doubt in my mind. I mean, we've had.
Thanks.
I used to go around Virginia when I lived there and go to psychic after psychic after psychic, just trying to find a real one.
Me too. I used to do that all the time. And there's one in town. I'm dying to go in there and just see what she says, see if she's legit. But you know,
she's probably saying, I hope she don't come in here. I hope she's not going in here.
I'm sure she wouldn't have a clue who I was. So, you know, or maybe I'll go in with dark glasses on and a hat or something and take off the wedding rings, take off all the cues, you know, all that stuff. So they can't just read you like that. But,
what's your favorite part? What is your most favorite thing about all this? Is there one?
Just making people happy. You know, after reading, I'd say everybody I read for is happy, and they're less grief-stricken. It helps with their grief and makes them understand that, you know, they're going to see their loved ones again and their loved ones are still close by. So being able to bring that evidence, the crazy, weird stuff that, you know, no one would ever know, you could never Google, and, you know, the person knows for sure that's their loved one. Like I had one where, this is really kind of funny. Well, I had one where I kept hearing the song, New York, New York. I can't sing, so I won't do it for you guys, as you can tell. And the woman starts crying. That was our song, you know, when her husband was in, and I'm saying, your husband's here, and da-da-da, and he's singing New York, New York. And, you know, that's what it took, and she knew it was him. You know, nobody would know that but her and him, or little nicknames they had for each other, or just strange little things that just are, it can be the smallest thing. Like I remember seeing this little pig, kept seeing a little miniature pig in this reading, and I told the lady, and she just started crying. She said, my husband and I collected little pigs, and I put a little tiny pig in the coffin with him. So who would know? It's like, that's what I love, that kind of evidence that, you know, how do you, some people could say, well, you could have been reading her mind. Well, I don't think so, because she wasn't thinking about it. She says, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that, but I had put that in his coffin. And when you read and when you're a medium, you feel that spirit presence. You know what I mean? You feel that energy. You know when there's somebody. Yes. And if you don't feel that energy, then then I'm not reading. I'm just doing a psychic reading.
Yeah.
So like, there's only been a few times when I couldn't do a mediumship reading for somebody. It was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just not picking up anybody. And they were very closed off, very negative, and it was very difficult to read for them until I held their hand, and then that kind of broke the spell. And then I got her father, and that was a whole long story, but that helped. But it's like, you feel, it's just hard to describe.
Yeah.
You feel like everybody feels it differently. I'll feel like this tingly energy. The hairs will stand up on my arms, and I'll talk faster. You probably noticed. See, I start talking a lot faster, and
why do they always approach from behind?
I don't know, but they do. And mine always comes in on over here. Well, no, sometimes my guide comes in on the left, but other people's family comes this way. And then they'll stand. So like, if it's on the right side, I see them this way. That's the father's side of the family. Left side, the mother's side of the family. I don't know. It's just over the years, you just pick up these ways to do things, and they use your brain. Like, I'm a weirdo. I like botany. Yeah. And I like remember all the Latin names of the trees and the species and all that, because I was a biologist and used to do that stuff. So like, they can tell me all these weird trees and plants and animals, and I can whip them out because I know that's in my brain still. Yeah. But they pick on things that you're good at and use it in a reading. I knew there was a famous medium called Gordon Higginson, and he was a postman in the UK. So when he would do readings, he would do addresses for people. Did they live at 933 East Main Street in whatever, Brookshire? Yeah. Holy crap. I would love to get that, But see, that's his, he knew it. It was in his brain.
Yeah, it was his receptibility.
Yes.
It's how he's neurologically
right.
tied. Yeah.
Right. They use what you know. And if you know a lot of medical terminology, which for some reason I do, I guess, I don't know, I've just picked it up. My sister's a doctor, maybe that's why. Or I stayed in a Holiday Inn, I don't know. But I'll pick up that stuff, the weirdest scientific terms I'll spit out, not even, like, where'd that come from? So I trust that now. I used to be afraid to say things or say names when I first started, because, when you're wrong, that's embarrassing. Yeah. But you just learn to keep giving what you get, and then you'll hit it, and then you get confident. And the spirit world never shuts up. They'll just keep talking to you and telling you what you need to know.
Yeah.
I do have an interesting question. Somebody in the chat said it, and I thought it was really good. Do the spirits that occupy our humanly meat suits, do they ever go back and go into an animal form? So have you ever had an animal that said, I used to be a kid named Billy?
I have not. So what I've been told about that is the animal kingdom tend to stay together. Mm-hmm. So dogs stay dogs, cats stay cats, but who knows? I could be totally wrong, and we get there, and if you're an animal, I have heard somebody say that you can move up in the animal kingdom, like from, I was a grasshopper, then I was a bird, then I was a leopard, and then I was a bear. I don't know about that. I've never experienced that in a reading. I've just seen a few times where a dog has let me know that this person is gonna, that spirit animal is going to come back to that person in another dog. And once this happened where I saw exactly what the dog looked like, and it would have the similar markings of the dog that passed. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, a few months later, these people are calling me, oh my God, we got our puppy and it has the same markings. And they knew it was the same spirit. It had the same personality, everything. So, but I've only seen that once or twice. Maybe twice, yeah. Huh. That's kind of cool.
Very cool. Jennifer, this was awesome. I so much appreciate you coming on with us and telling us everything. We definitely gotta have you back on, because I think we could probably do another 2 hours of this, just going back and forth.
Awesome.
Everybody, you guys can find her at jenniferwallens.com. We have the website going out, and Insomniac is going ahead and post that. I'm posting that. For everybody out there, we'll be 30 minutes. We'll be going to our subscription show, Fringe After Dark. We'll just be having a regular conversation for about an hour. If you want to join in that, it was involved in the email that was sent out a little while ago, as well as you can find it on redpills.tv/ I believe Fringe After Dark. If you just go there, it's in the menu. You can see it in the drop down. Other than that, you guys all have a great night. We love you. God bless. Take care. We'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.